Alright, okay, so if you've been following me lately, you know that I've recently created 3 new activity books that I plan to show off on my channel that are due to go live on Amazon very soon. So the first book is this How to Draw Animals book for kids, which is currently in review on Amazon, meaning that you're going to be able to track this book and follow its progress very soon. So the launch of the How to Draw Books Generator app, which was how I managed to create this book, is going to go live tomorrow on the 31st of March, where I'm going to do a full review of the software, what I think of it, the pricing, all the features, pretty much everything that you need to know if that's something that is interests you, if it's something that suits your publishing goals. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled tomorrow for that. But what I wanted to do in this video today was to go deeper into the launching of these books and emphasize what it takes to have a successful launch and what I'm doing whilst those books are in review waiting to go live. Okay, so you're going to be able to consider these factors when it comes to publishing your books in these type of niches in future. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my plan here with these books. So for me, it's mega important that you get the first couple of weeks of your book going live nailed down, because that's when you want to get as many sales as possible. But what I wanted to do in this video today was to go deeper into the launching of these books and emphasize what it takes to have a successful launch and what I'm doing whilst those books are in review waiting to go live. Okay, so you're going to be able to consider these factors when it comes to publishing your books in these type of niches in future. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my plan here with these books. So for me, it's mega important that you get the first couple of weeks of your book going live nailed down, because that's when you want to get as many sales as possible. So let's go over some of the factors about this batch of books and what you can take into consideration when launching your books. Okay, so let's head back over to my plan. If you've not seen this, basically I've been talking about the books that I'm creating and the entirety of the plan here. So talking about optimizing the content, your productivity, time wasting factors, and the marketing that goes into this as well. So what I've done, if we scroll down to another glorious mess here, is to focus on the launch plan. Okay, so these are the factors that I think you need to spend most of your energy on when it comes to launching your books, basically, and getting as many sales as possible during the first couple of weeks of your book going live. So one of the main things that you want to focus on when it comes to having a big launch is making sure, of course, that you are picking the correct niche. So by correct niche, I mean niches that have got traffic, proven traffic going to them. So I'm going to touch upon all these other funny looking objects in just a second, but to start with, let's go ahead and take a look at niche confirmation before we go ahead and launch these books. So for me, when it comes to launching books in bigger niches, I want to make sure there is tons of traffic going to it, and I also want to make sure that if a book is successful, there lends for an opportunity to create more similar books in that type of niche. I'll show you what I mean now. So if you watch my channel, you know that the extent of my research when it comes to getting into these bigger niches is that I tend to look for books that have a ranking of under 1,000 and typically have rankings that are sort of under 10,000, maybe 5,000. There's no set criteria, and it's something that I really don't concern myself with when it comes to publishing in these type of niches. So I tend to just load up my BSR extension and go through and just check to make sure that there is some seriously low numbers, which there are. I have a book that's ranked under 1,000 at the moment, and I can tell you that anything under 1,000 is making more than 200 sales a day, basically. So what I like to do is just go through these and just to make sure. There's some incredibly low ones as well. We can't expect to hit these type of numbers. 38 in books is absolutely insane. So no matter what anyone says, you're not going to get there. You're probably not going to anyway. But the niche confirmation here, it's as simple as this. So the second factor that I look for when it comes to producing books in these type of niches is that if one book is successful, then I want to be sure that there are other ways that I can branch off from that. So what I mean by that is we've seen that the How to Draw stuff has got traffic going to it, but is there going to be an opportunity for us to create more books after that? So basically what I've been doing is creating How to Draw for Animals. So if that book is a success or it starts seeing any type of sales, then I'm going to want to double down and start pushing more books in this niche. So one of the ways that we can check that is just to see if this niche lends to other opportunities as well. And it's kind of in the same boat as coloring books, where I feel like there is plenty of opportunity. So if we just come over to the search bar here and we start doing our types, we start doing our, I don't know what I'm saying, we start doing our niche research inside of the search bar. What I like to do here is just kind of you've probably seen people do this a million times, but it kind of works. You want to see what people are actively searching for. So what you can do is to start typing how to draw, for example, and then start going through the alphabet after that. So for example, we can already see that we have how to draw anime, animals, manga, whatever that is, Pokemon, don't touch that in a million years. And then what you want to do is just go through and type each letter of the alphabet. So it brings up suggestions for that. So we can do A, we've done that already. Let's go to B. We can see here that we have how to draw birds. Okay, so that's another opportunity that we could then start researching later on. Then we can do this again. We go for cute stuff, cute food, cars, comics, and you can just keep going all the way through the alphabet. And typically when more suggestions come back from the broader niche, so the broad niche being how to draw books, the more suggestions that you get back, the more powerful the broad niche is, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'll have to explain that in another video, but you know, there's tons here, dinosaurs, etc, etc, etc. And that's going to lead me on to when to reinvent the wheel. So during your launch period, if you're starting a new brand, and this is basically what I did for my coloring books, was to publish the first few books in niches that were proven to have sales going to them. If there are proven sales, which is pretty easy to see on Amazon just through doing a little bit of research, then there's no reason to suspect that you can't also make sales if you have a good book and you also nail your marketing campaigns as well, i.e. your ads. So what I would suggest when it comes to releasing new books as part of a launch is to go where traffic has been proven to be going, basically where the buyers are going. That's the type of books that you want to launch in, because the more sales that you get, the stronger you're going to build your brand and the quicker you're going to build that brand. And then from there, this is obviously just my suggestion, but this is what I am doing with my coloring books, is that I hit the first 5 niches, the first five coloring books, really proven strong niches, add campaigns to them, and now on the 6th book that I am releasing, now I've actually built a tiny email list from that as well. I'm actually releasing something completely unproven and testing that with some decent results as well. So that's just the way that I would do it. If you're here to make money, not waste your time, then in my opinion you have to go where there are you have to go to the niches that have got traffic going to them, and also niches that lend for the opportunity to create more books in as well. And since everyone loves ChatGPT, what we can do when it comes to you know, maybe going where there's not proven traffic on Amazon, where perhaps the niche doesn't even exist anymore, or should I say the sub niche doesn't exist anymore, what we can do is ask our beloved ChatGPT and say, I've created a how to draw book for kids 6 to 10 with animals. Can you give me some more sub niche suggestions, and then see what it comes back with. Sure, here are some blah blah blah, fantasy animals, endangered animals. All right, sea creatures is probably a good one. Mythical creatures, probably a good one. Birds we've seen already. Insects, yeah, that sounds good. Farm animals, that's probably a good one. Pets is probably a good one. Reptiles, etc, etc. You've all seen ChatGPT. I'm going to stop that there. But that's what you can do just to get some more suggestions as well. So let's move back to our launch plan here, and we're going to move on to the section called touch-ups. Now, this might seem like a minute factor to focus on, but when it comes to launching your books, during that launch period, like I say, you want to do everything you can to get as many sales as possible. So if that's going to be running ad campaigns, going into bigger niches, making your book look as nice as possible, using A+ content, doing everything you can. And what people tend to miss out on is the touch-ups that they can do to their book to just improve that customer experience that little bit. So for example, if I come into my interior here for this book, what you see that I've done is to include some pages as to which animals are going to be included inside this book. Now this is something that typically most of these books do anyway, but when it comes to competing in these type of niches, we don't want to be the book that doesn't have these little touches as well. Okay, so if you're getting your book onto the front page and people are looking inside your book, you want them to see this type of interior. Okay, so what I've also included is a section here about the basics. This is something that I'll probably change before I launch the book today, but again, it's these little touches that add up and can end up with more 5-star reviews if you get this right. Okay, so then of course we have the interior of the book that follows with 101 images in there as well. Okay, so for me the touch-ups go pretty much all over, like it's not just the interior, but we're talking about the book cover as well. So when you have a book cover returned to you, whether you've been creating the book cover yourself or whatever, I think it's important that you don't go with whatever the first book is. So basically what I've done here is to add just some borders to this and see if this makes the book look any better. And I actually think that this middle one with the green border, I think it actually makes it stand out slightly more. So the other thing that we did as well, in case you haven't noticed from my last video, was we included the one more animal to make it 101, just to make it a little bit quirky, a little bit more in theme with what other people in the niche are doing as well. And we also changed I'll just zoom in quickly so you can see, also changed the font here to make it stand out with the white font here, because previously, if I can find the previous cover, it didn't appear to stand out that much. So what I'm saying here basically is that just take some time when it comes to these finer details, and you'll realize that they do add up. And when you spend a little bit more extra time, a little bit more care on your books, you're going to start seeing results quicker. So yeah, just to show you here, we had this cover here before where we had the green and the black, which I don't think looks as good. We introduced the border around it, which I quite like. I think that's probably going to be not for everyone, but I do like it. And we changed the font, the font color here as well to make it stand out just that little bit more. Where is it here? Okay, so for me, these look better, and this is something hopefully the customer is going to appreciate as well. So let's move on to something that's probably a little bit controversial, but we're going to talk about competition fear. So anytime anyone makes videos or talks about new apps or software, anything like that, we always get this fear that the competition is going to be overwhelming. There's going to be no point in us trying. But the reality is the myth of saturation, and I'm probably going to offend people here, but the myth of saturation has been peddled for as long as I can remember, since 2011 when I started. People were saying it then, they say it now. The reality is everything's competitive on Amazon. I can't think of niches where there's not competition, and I love competition because it means you have to create a better book and stand out, and that's a fantastic feeling. So if you want to go somewhere where there's going to be less competition, then I genuinely think you have to produce in sort of high content niches. But just to use a couple of my older books here as an example, and of course this is my addition and subtraction workbook and my Christmas word search, so I think you'd agree with me when I say that these aren't exactly super niche down types of books, and these type of books have existed for a very, very, very long time. And I'll try and show you in just a second if I can be bothered to load it up. But basically these books, the Christmas one, obviously it's not relevant at the moment, but the addition and subtraction one is still selling. It's still on the first page for its keyword. The Christmas word search was ranked on the first page during the launch of it, and it sold during Christmas as well, obviously. And I'm just going to blindly come over because I've not actually checked these for a while, but addition and subtraction workbook I think was still ranked at the top of the page, those search results, and the book is still selling. As for the Christmas word search, I don't know how this has been affected. Maybe we're not here anymore, it looks like, but we are still here. Obviously the ranking is horrendous because it's not Christmas anymore, but the fact is that with a solid marketing plan and a little bit of thought when it goes into our launch, is that we can most definitely get found in these competitive niches, and I will die on that hill 1,000,000%. And the problem when it comes to worrying about competition is that you're never going to get started if you worry about anything. Like if you're more inclined to do things like notebooks and journals, then the competition is going to be even harder. It's going to be immense. And I do think actually that is an area of Amazon publishing that I don't ever want to get back into, because of the competition, and it is pretty intense. So for me, the sweet spots are these kind of medium content books that have got lots of traffic going to them, where we can indeed get ranked and start seeing great sales. And I know this is a touchy subject for some people, but how much more proof do people need that you can compete in these type of niches? We've ranked both of these books. I've had another book that I've shown off that I've ranked as well, and we're going to do it with the how to draw animal books as well. Obviously I can't guarantee that, but if you're going to be following me throughout my bootcamp or the case studies, whatever I decide to do for the bonus for the how to draw books generator software, then you're going to be able to see everything that I'm doing to get these books ranked as well, just the same way that I did with these ones. Okay, so the thing is here that this book hasn't gone live yet, the how to draw animals. It hasn't gone live because it's going to be in review. So when it comes to the bootcamp or the case studies for this, you're actually going to be able to see me doing it pretty much as and when it happens. Okay, so that's going to be incredibly interesting for a lot of people, I hope anyway. Okay, so just one other thing here to touch upon more specific to these type of books. Now, we keep touching upon reusing your assets and optimizing your time and things like that. So during the launch of these books, what I want to be doing is working on other projects that I can quickly create books for as well with the app. So for example, what I want to do, as you've probably already seen, is to create a how to draw animals book using these kind of grid pages instead of the step-by-step ones. So basically what we're going to be doing here, if we come over to the app now, please keep in mind, if I'm showing you anything inside the app at the moment, I am using a fully upgraded version of it. If there's different features for different prices when it comes to the launch of this software, I'll have a video out tomorrow that explains all the pricing, but just keep that in mind when I'm showing you anything on screen at the moment. I do have the fully upgraded version. Okay, so when it comes to like I say, optimizing our time, reusing our assets and creating more books whilst the other books are in review, what we can do is come over to the app, and what I want to do here is to pretty much just reuse all of my assets but create a whole new type of book from as well. So I'm going to show you how you can do that inside the app very quickly. So for this version of the software, what you can do, if you have all your, so remember we're reusing our assets here that we've either collected from Weather or outsourced or whatever you've done to get your images. We can come over to the app and we're going to come to our cloning option here, and then we're going to clone what we've got on screen here. So what we have actually, if I just show you these type of books where we have the grids, basically the person filling these out, the child more than likely, is going to be able to they're going to be able to copy the image above into the the grids below here. Okay, so this gives them an easier way to produce the type of image, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'll explain all this in the review tomorrow, but basically what we can do, if we bulk clone these, we can take all of our existing assets and upload them into this software. So if we upload these and then we apply this, it's going to go ahead and hopefully create every single one of these pages. Okay, so what we can see here, it's gone ahead and it's created all these different pages, and that's pretty much going to be an entire new book. So obviously there are going to be things I have to work on within this, but when it comes to reusing your assets and optimizing your time, this is a fantastic way to sort of create branch off books from the other books that you're creating as well, if you're going to be making these type of books. Okay, so they're all in here and they're all positioned instantly into the grids, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, more on that in the review tomorrow. Okay, so moving back to our launch plan here. So moving on to review fear here. So what do I mean by that? Now, I'm not doubting at all that having reviews for your book during your launch period won't affect the sales in a positive way, because I'm pretty sure that it will. But this is something I think people get kind of overwhelmed with, is like needing to find these reviews. But what I found, and I've done plenty of digging on this, is that for people that have gone and got their family to leave them reviews, or done dodgy services that give them reviews and things like that, is that no matter what reviews they get, if people don't want their book, if it's not in a good enough niche, it will die off over time. And I've been here and I've checked this so many times, and the reality is that all of my books, just go back to competition fear here again, like all of my books that I released, other than one that I released in 2018, I didn't look for reviews. I just put up a good quality book in a big niche and then run ad campaigns to it. And then if your book is good enough, you're going to get those organic reviews coming in, which is much more powerful than having your mum, your dad, or your dog leave a review for you. So just to tie this into the launch plan here, what I'm saying is that I don't think you need to waste time trying to find crazy ways of getting reviews to your book. Focusing on that element is going to waste your time, and I think you should be looking at all these other factors that we've been talking about. Now, one factor that we need to talk about more than anything is ads. Okay, so you'll notice the way that I'm releasing my books is that I don't release them all in big chunks, okay? Because typically what I do is I spend the majority of my ads, as in on a daily sort of basis ratio, if that makes sense, on the first few days. Okay, so if you're releasing 10 books at the same time and you're spending a ton of ad campaigns, spending money on a ton of ad campaigns, that's going to add up extremely quickly, and when you see that money coming out of your account, it's not a particularly nice feeling. So what I like to do is to focus on the book, one book at a time, and then give that 2 weeks. Okay, so obviously the first book that's going up is going to be the How to Draw Animals, and then it's going to be probably the maze book after that, which will be 2 weeks after that. Okay, so I'm going to focus my marketing efforts with the ad spend onto the How to Draw Animals book for the first 2 weeks. Now, why do I say 2 weeks? Because that is what I feel is the sort of sweet spot when it comes to uploading your book onto Amazon, getting lots of sales, getting that sort of boost from Amazon, and also, of course, not spending too much money on your ad campaigns. So after that 2 weeks has gone, what I like to do is take a look at the ad spend and then start slowly turning off the campaigns. So if my book is getting ranked and I'm happy with it, I can start turning off those campaigns, and then the bulk of the ad spend is going to be at the start of those 2 weeks, right? Then toward the end of that 2 weeks, we're going to look at what we're going to be turning off, how we're going to be optimizing it. You should have enough data to work with at that point. So just to give a quick example, I can't get the numbers exactly here, but I think maybe I spent $40 to $50 on my coloring book in the first sort of week or so. Maybe it might have been a bit more, maybe it was 100, I can't remember how much it was, but the first couple of weeks was when basically I spent the most amount of money, 150, I don't know, whatever it was, the most amount of money to get the book ranked and generating sales and get the sort of snowball effect going. Then after those 2 weeks, I pretty much cut a ton of them off because the organic sales were so good, and I could see that I was ranked on the first page, organic sales were good, and then I started adjusting the ads and even turned so many of them off. I think we're at a point now with that book that the organic sales just dwarf anything that the ad spend is doing. So I think maybe I'm spending $5 or $6 a day on that coloring book at the moment. So if that makes sense, we sort of wait those sort of 2 weeks, then we move on to the next book, which is going to be the Maze book, and then start that process over again. Okay, so I will be explaining and showing off that entire process, so you're going to be able to see the keywords, the amount that I'm spending, and the thought process that go behind it. I'll be showing that off in the case study or the boot camp, whatever it is that I decide to do, and just touching upon the case study and the boot camp that I'm offering alongside as a bonus to anyone that buys the software through me. I sent out an email, I think it was maybe yesterday or the day before, and I had some really strange issues where people weren't allowed to reply to it. But basically I was asking what people would be more so interested in when it comes to the bonus for this software. Would you be interested in having a boot camp? So basically doing something, videos through Facebook where we can interact with each other and I can give my feedback and show you what I'm doing. Or would you be more so interested in just like the standard case study videos where I create a lot of videos and then just upload them somewhere, and then you can watch them at any point. But either way, like the boot camp, if you do that, you'd be able to do it at your own pace, watch it whenever, it's going to be there forever. We did one before, it was quite successful, people had a pretty good time, I think, anyway. But if you want to let me know what you prefer, then I'll be working on that from now until the end of the launch of the software. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Those are some of the factors that I take into consideration when it comes to what I was doing when it comes to creating a bestseller on Amazon. Those are the main factors that I focused on. We're going to go into much more detail in the case study or the boot camp. But that's it for this video. We're going to take a look tomorrow at the review for this software so you can see how I'm creating these type of images for my books. So this stuff gets pretty exciting because there's a lot of features and a lot of things for us to go over, but I think you're going to be pretty excited with what I've got to show you. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.